Welcome to the Sip and Say It podcast with your host, Carlos, a.k.a. Los, a podcast that promises to deliver a raw and unfiltered experience as we dive into the one-on-one conversations about a wide array of topics. We're inviting listeners to engage in candid discussions, personal stories, and diverse perspectives. Say what's on your minds. Let's create an open space for honest dialogue. As a village, let's immerse ourselves on trending issues, personal anecdotes, thought-provoking themes. Nothing is off limits. Tune in and become part of the conversations. Let's sip and say it together.
Welcome, people. Welcome to another episode of Sip and Say It. This is your host, Los, and my boy,
Kevin.
Kev. We have a special guest today, don't we?
Yes, we have someone named Carmencita with us today.
Wepa, Carmencita. How you doing, Carmencita?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, I didn't use my Spanish accent. Carmencita. That's
Much
better, right?
Yes.
All right, folks. So listen, folks, thank you for joining us. We're about to kick off some new content, and we're going to let Kev go right into it.
Okay, so we decided we'd do a little something different today. I don't know if any of you are familiar with AITA, which this would be the first time we actually use what can be considered a curse word on the show, but it stands for Am I the Asshole? Which is on Reddit, the subreddit where people ask questions and they want to know, are they the asshole in this particular situation?
Now, listen, I dove into it, and there's some stuff in there. Carmencita, have you seen some of that? Yeah, I know I did it again. Go ahead.
Yes, actually, I go through these with my significant other, and we argue back and forth.
Interesting. Yeah, I saw some good topics in there. And Kev, what's our rules today? What we're gonna do?
So the rules are we're going to do AITH roulette. Each of us is going to pick a random one, read it out loud, and then we wait for the rest of us in the group to respond to it and give their thoughts and opinions.
Okay. So go for it.
All right.
Kick it off.
Which we had a little roulette wheel here. Hey, it stopped. Okay, so I have one here that says, am I the asshole for losing it on my wife after she told my son to get out of the picture at my stepdaughter's birthday?
Carmencita, I'm going to let you open that one up. What do you think?
I'm going to start off with my usual answer. I need more information.
Okay.
Go for it.
Assuming-
Kev,
Here we go.
fill us in.
I'm assuming the son is his biological son. So
All right, let's dive into this. I'm really struggling here and starting to feel like I'm losing my mind. I think I'm being gaslit. So what better place to get some clarity than Reddit? Here's the situation. I've been married to my wife for 8 years, and on the whole, we have a good relationship. She has 4 kids, 2 daughters, 2 sons, ages 11 through 16, from a previous relationship, and I have 1 son who's 10. Since day one, I've treated her kids as my own and done my best to support the family. Financially, it's a big load, but I'm happy to do it. We live together in a 5-bedroom house where each of her daughters has their own room. Her oldest son has his own, and her youngest son shares a room with my son. The main issue and what's tearing me apart is how she treats my son. She barely acknowledges him, rarely asks how he's doing, and generally acts like he's invisible. Tonight, it hit a breaking point. We were celebrating her daughter's 11th birthday, and everyone was gathered to sing and take pictures. I told my son to get in with the group for a picture, which seemed fine. But then right after the group photo, my wife looked at my son and told him, get out of the picture, move to the side. I want one with just my kids. I felt like my heart shattered in that moment. I completely lost it. I told her that we're supposed to be a blended family, that my son deserves to be treated like one of her own. I feel like she's drawing lines between her kids and my son, and it doesn't sit right with me. For context, my son's biological mom passed away 2 years, supposedly from COVID complications, though she had a history of drug problems and that may have worsened things. My son has only my wife now as a mother figure. I'm terrified that this rejection from her is going to hurt him deeply and cause psychological damage. Am I asking too much for her to treat him like part of the family? I don't want to be overreacting, but the way she flat out ignores him is painful to witness. Am I the asshole for expecting her to step up and include him?
No.
I agree. No.
However, I would say that if those red flags were there before they got married, he shouldn't have married her to begin with.
Yeah, I think we instinctively could feel that vibe, right, from that person. And you're right. There should have been some red flags to pick up. If not, then he was just probably too, his eyes or his heart were somewhere else instead of thinking what he
His
truly
son.
wants right now.
Yeah, and I think he said it well in his description. They're a blended family. It shouldn't be my kids, your kids. Especially, it sounds like they're fairly young still, or somewhat young. It's not like you got married when the kids were adults or something, which might be a little bit different. I still feel then you still should act like a family, but if they're young kids and you've joined as one, the kids should be treated as if they were yours.
And I think there's at least I would have, just like him, that expectation of that significant other, right? To, yeah, be that mom figure now. What, he lost what he had. My attempt to get married and create and have this blended family is so he's not by himself and I'm not by myself. That we have someone to share life with, right? And I think that that's going to take a very, very, very serious conversation between him and a significant other to address this matter. Because, look, at the end of the day, I think some people may argue back and forth, but if we're in any of that situation, my son and or my daughter is first. Um, I'm all they have, and going into this relationship, I'm trying to build something. But if they're not willing to gel or meet me halfway, then I'm wasting my time.
And he's modeling the behavior. I mean, he's acting the way he's acting towards her children the way he feels she should act towards his son. So it's not even like he's being hypocritical himself. He's like, "Look, I've done what I can to make your kids feel like as if they're mine. You should do the same."
Yeah, that's key. You know what? I think surprised that he didn't pick up on red flags previous to that, because I'm a believer that you got to give of yourself first. And if I am going to win, let's just say her hand, I got to win her kids' hands. So I got to put of myself to partake with them, laugh with them, eat with them.
Get to know them.
Yeah, get to know them. They let them get to know who I am. Obviously, identifying at the end of the day, and I think I'm sure in all kind of blended families, they kind of go through this. You're not trying to replace the mother or the father in that situation, right? You're just trying to be who you are.
Yeah, so I kind of want to interject a little bit because I agree with what you said. However, what you said sounded like it was coming from the man's point of view.
Hmm.
Right? You had to win her kids over, right? You, as the man, had to win her kids over. At no point did you say she's got to win my kid over, right? Because you feel like you're the man, you're the one in pursuit, you're the one that has to be the prince, the king, whatever you want to call it, right? The one who has to capture her heart and capture the kids' hearts. Maybe he was too busy doing that, right? Making sure that the 4 kids accepted him, where he did not include his son as much as he should have in the beginning because he was busy wooing her and then realizing that to woo her, I also need to woo her children, and his son got left behind. especially before they got married, there probably wasn't much reason for her to interact with his son unless he was the one that caused that interaction. So no, he's not the asshole. I agree 100%. But maybe he was sticking too much to traditional roles and didn't let her or inform her that, hey, I'm trying to win you over. I'm trying to win your kids over. How am I doing? How do you feel like, interacting with my son? Maybe you and my son get to hang out a day or two together by yourselves, get to know each other, that type of thing.
I mean, that's a proactive move, but I think, this is open for debate at this point, right?
Mhm.
You got to be observant. That's one of the bigger things in there. Like, if she's seeing me interact, then I'm going to sit in the cut and let me see her interact. And then if there is a problem, then you just can't brush that underneath the carpet. You got to make that approach and have that conversation.
Right. They needed to have 3 T's. They needed to do halt
Ooh,
and have these conversations going.
interesting. Interesting.
And know about the love ambition balance, have all that going.
Wow. That part, right? That part. So, Carmencita, you have one? Okay. Let's hear it.
Work on the name. All right. So, am I the asshole for leaving my sister's kid with a family friend after she was hours late picking him up?
Okay, hold on. Repeat that.
Am I the asshole for leaving my sister's kid with a family friend after she was hours late picking him up?
So she left the nephew that was entrusted to her with
He.
somebody else or him.
Yeah.
More detail on that? Because right now I'm going to say kind of you are, because that's your nephew. But all right.
So I, 36-year-old male, agreed to babysit my sister's son, 8-year-old male, last Friday night so she could go out to a friend's event. She said she'd be back early Saturday morning, and I was happy to help. I even planned some activities for us before she came by, since I don't often get to spend time with my nephew. Saturday morning rolled around, and by 9 a.m., she hadn't shown up. I texted her, and she replied that she was on her way, so I didn't worry. We had breakfast, hung out, and waited around until about 11 a.m. I texted her again, mentioning that I had plans at 3 p.m., and she replied with, "Be there soon." By 1 p.m., I started getting anxious because I still had not heard anything more. I tried calling, but she didn't answer. I left a voicemail reminding her I had plans later in the afternoon and needed her to let me know her ETA. By 2:30, I was really stressing. I had been planning to leave by then to get to my friend's party, but she still hadn't shown up or answered her phone. Finally, around 3:30, after calling and texting with no response, I reached out to a family friend who lives in my building. She's known my family for years, and my nephew and sister know her well, so I knew he'd be comfortable and safe.
Okay.
The family friend was happy to help, so I explained the situation and left my nephew with her, giving her my sister's contact information in case anything came up. When my sister finally picked up her son at 5 p.m., she was furious. She accused me of abandoning him, saying I'd had one job and should have waited. I explained that she'd promised to be back in the morning, then ignored my text and calls. I also told her I left him with someone, we all trusted. She said I should have sacrificed my plans, even if it meant waiting all day, since family comes first.
Hmm.
I feel guilty for leaving him, but I was hours late to my own event and frustrated by her lack of communication. Am I the asshole for not waiting for her to show up and leaving my nephew with a trusted family friend?
Wow. The headline at first, I said, yeah, you kind of are. But with the explanation, no. It's interesting when she say he had only one job, but her one job is to take care of her son. Right? Fine. She wanted to go out. Her brother stepped in. She told, even an overnight thing. It wasn't like, hey, can you watch Johnny for a couple hours? It was like, can you watch Johnny for the day? have him sleep over with you, and I'll be by in the morning, right? So that's a pretty big commit. He reaches out to her because she's late. And she says, well, I'll be on my way soon. So like, all right, I'm gonna take my nephew, we're gonna have breakfast, we're gonna hang out, do things, right? He's being the good uncle. Then she ignores multiple attempts over and over of him trying to get in touch with him.
Yeah, not cool.
Not cool. Now, granted, he was just going to a party. I mean, I don't know how important the party is, but it's a party. So I probably myself would have missed the party just because maybe something happened to my sister, I don't know. So
But that was kind of really irresponsible.
Yeah.
Well, and on the flip side, something could have happened to her, but what if something was going on with your son? Like, what if he had to go to the emergency room
Oh,
or
she's
something?
wrong.
You're not answering
Right.
the calls. Like,
Right.
my child is with someone else. That phone rings. I'm dropping whatever I'm doing and I'm answering, whether I'm late or not.
100% she's at fault. 100%.
And if you look at it, he did the same thing she did. I mean, I know I'm oversimplifying, DNA aside. She found someone she could trust to leave her son. He found someone they could trust to leave her son because he needed to be somewhere. So she technically he didn't do anything different from her based on under the situation because she wasn't communicating.
Yeah. And I think we talked a lot about that communication, right?
Yeah, communication. Yes.
Yeah, the big C.
Yeah.
That's you resolve a lot of things or, jump in the way of things if you communicate appropriately, right? And that's in every scenario down the line. And I just I'm with you guys at the end of the day. If anything with my kid, the world could stop, right? I need to get there. It doesn't matter where I'm at and what I'm in the mix, unless I'm like completely blanked out on some old fashions, right? That's probably going to be my only excuse, but maybe not even that because you'll sober up actually really fast.
Someone tells you something's going on with your kids.
Yeah, absolutely. So, folks, I think it's my turn, right? Let's kind of go into this one, right? So it says, am I the asshole for being rude to my mother because of her indecisiveness? So my mom, and it says me, but I would say, and I have a plan for my oath-taking ceremony. We already planned this event of where we will eat or what place we will go after the event. Some of the plans were changed because of her. For instance, she said, we'll just rent a car so that my aunts will also come to the restaurant. But then she changed it. And she says, well, we will just have dinner at our house. I was just, okay, if that's your final decision. Now, in parentheses, it says, mind you, that we planned this for almost 2 months. So here's the date, November 3rd. She got angry at my father for some reasons. And she texted me, I don't want to go to the ceremony. Just go with your boyfriend. She did this twice. I already bought 3 tickets for my parents and my boyfriend, and it's quite expensive. I'm so frustrated, and I replied, then don't go. All of you just don't go. You always change your plans as if you're VIP. I don't know why she always does that. It makes me sad. This is a once in a lifetime celebration because I passed my board examination. She ruined it. I also blocked her after expressing my frustration.
Wow.
She changed plans if it's inconvenient for her, but for me, she doesn't mind. Am I the asshole for saying that?
I would say I understand the frustration. I mean, I think that's another situation where you're as a parent, you put your kids first, and because whatever happened between her and her husband, that should be between her and her husband, but why is it affecting your child?
Right. And you plan this 2 months in advance.
And you're celebrating her.
Yeah.
Be mad at your husband all day, but still celebrate your child.
Right. Because it's not about her.
Exactly.
What do you think?
No, I agree with both of you. Yeah, that was a pretty douchebag move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I would probably be a little pissed.
Yeah.
I think in time as we get older, right? I think we have mercy, right, to a certain extent, right? And I think we, at least I could probably be angry at the moment and I'll go to the event and do whatever. I'm just trying to put myself in that position. But ultimately, my mom or my parents, they're all I got. So, okay, maybe for the first 12 hours, we're not talking.
Right.
And tomorrow, due to maturity, doing in time, that you realize how things are.
TTT.
Say yeah.
Alt and TTT.
Yeah. Yeah. You rebound to the point where like, all right, the world didn't end.
Right.
Let me get back. That's my mom. That's my dad. I love them. All right, let's learn from the situation. Let's talk it out.
She blocked her mom though, so there's that.
Yeah, she sure did.
Yeah.
But I mean, how long is that block, right?
Well, that's what I'm curious. I mean, you said this just happened, right? Didn't
Yeah.
you say? Yeah. So I'm curious if there's a follow-up. I only blocked her for 24 hours. Okay, fine.
Yeah. Some people were making the comment and they're not an asshole. But I think we all kind of relate. We could probably get pissed off for that moment and
Yeah.
rebound.
I think that the anger, the frustration, the hurt even, I think it's hurt probably even more than anger or combination is justified.
Okay.
But yeah, you cool off and then you talk through it.
Yeah. Timing, tone, and turf. Timing, tone, and turf, right?
Where's the truth? Wasn't there truth?
There's no truth in that. Because whatever the mother was saying was the reason she wasn't going was not a legitimate reason, right? The truth of the matter, she's the mother.
Facts.
She'd be celebrating her child. Her child was accomplishing a milestone in their life. Be there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know we're winging it, right? So I know part of this is our sip and say it. You guys are actually sipping on something, right?
We are.
Okay. So I know that's from Valenzano.
Drinking a Valenzano chocolate wine.
Chocolate wine.
Yeah.
I mean, how's it hit your palate? I mean,
I liked it. It was it took a second to feel the chocolate for me, but once
I'm glad you said that, and you mentioned that earlier. But I have yet to taste the chocolate.
so what are your taste buds saying?
I am tasting more like I don't want to say blueberry, but I'm tasting more like that.
That's interesting because they do have a blueberry fort.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm tasting. I'm not really tasting the chocolate. It's good,
Okay.
but I'm not tasting.
It should be. It's about 20 something percent.
And maybe that's what it is. It's too strong for my delicate tongue to pull the chocolate nuance from it.
So I got a question, right? Carmencita, right? I hear you you're a fan of the old fashioned.
I sure am.
Okay. Is there a
And smoked old fashions are my more favorite.
Okay. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. I'm definitely a fan. Now, do you have a specific bourbon for it?
There's a couple that I like. I've gotten turned on to Basil Hayden,
Okay.
Angel's Envy, and there was a recent one.
Angel's Envy does it.
Larceny, right?
Yeah.
Larceny.
See, I like Bullet.
Mm-hmm.
Woodford.
I was gonna say Woodford. I do like.
Yeah, Woodford's not too bad.
Buffalo Trace.
Buffalo Trace is good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Completely agree. So, Carmencita, have you had the chance to listen to some of our previous episodes and any comments on that?
I have listened to every single one, and I get upset when you guys are late.
He's a fan.
Is she really? She's upset. I mean, the fans, but like, you guys are doing great. Let's keep it up. Let's keep it going. Let's get the momentum going.
But you know what? She is a fan, keeping us responsible, right? We say we're going to
She's
do
calling
one.
us to task.
Yes,
Yes,
right.
true.
And I have commented to you guys on each episode. So I give you the positive feedback, but I also got to remind you of your schedule.
Facts. So, which one was your best? You think? Well, to you, what caught your attention? Which episode?
I would say one of my favorite ones so far would be the love language one. So I think I learned a few things on that. Um, I did like the one from last week about dreams because there was some I didn't know that dreaming about food just meant you were hungry. That it's you're falling, you are feeling unstable, I think it was.
Hmm.
So that was interesting.
Yeah, there was some. We were doing some myth busting here
Mm-hmm.
on some of these dreams, man. But yeah, I got to speak to someone the other day, and they were intrigued of my dream, wanted to know more, right? Like, and even my mom, she was like, I can't get into your app. I can't. I'm like, Mom, I got you. I'll put you on YouTube real quick. And I did exactly that, and they got to hear the dream, and she remembered. She was like, oh, I remember you calling your dad. Your dad almost fell off the bed trying to answer the phone. I was like, yeah, man, it's 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, man. So, but yeah, and Kev, I know you did some reading on the dreaming of the food. It's not necessarily the food; it's actually something.
Yeah. So, I don't know why we always have to get into some type of controversy about things, but and why it's on me. But however, because of Reddit, I came across something just randomly today, as a matter of fact. Someone was complaining that they had heard a African pastor going on and on about dreams and how some of them are evil. Basically, this pastor mentioned that wet dreams were evil, and I guess that could be understandable because if you're probably having dreams of a certain type that wouldn't be looked kindly upon by the church. But then what caught me by loop, he then said he was told that dreaming about food was evil. That dreams about food actually come from the enemy and nowhere else. Which I found to be like, I never heard that. So then I started doing research, and sure enough, I found several gospel. Well, I don't know how. I didn't, interview them to know how good they are or how much of the gospel they actually follow.
Right.
But the one I found did say that dreaming about food was actually not a good thing. It's actually an evil thing. And they actually wanted to interpret certain parts of certain dreams here. So let me pull this up real quick because it was very, very interesting.
Yeah, I thought dreaming about food was I was going to be one of these food critics at some point, and I was going to have to dive in and go taste it somewhere, right?
That's what I would think.
But not that it would come from something evil.
Yeah. So if you have dreams,
Especially since you can't control your dreams.
Mm.
so if you have dreams, if you have repeated dreams about eating, this can be very disturbing. If you stumbled on this article during your search for the meaning of eating in a dream, which I guess I did, I presume that you just woke up out of a dream when you saw yourself eating. You may have wondered what such a dream probably means, and I believe that the Spirit of the Lord led you to this blog.
Okay. All right, where are we going?
All right. Having received many dream interpretation requests concerning what it means to see oneself eating in a dream, I can say that dreams about eating are very rampant and come in various forms. I believe that each time people find themselves eating in a dream, there is always that inner knowledge that such is not a good dream. To most of us, God has given us the ability to readily discern a good dream from a bad dream. If you're one of those who frequently find yourself eating food in dreams, there is no need to fear, but you have to pray. Remember that God has a solution for every negative dream you may see. Is eating in a dream bad? The simplest answer to this is yes, it is bad. Although some people have turned dreams about eating into jokes and comedy, these dreams aren't funny at all. They're actually destructive. No one should desire to eat in their dreams. Once again, let's be reminded that dreams come from three major sources: God, the human mind, and the enemy. In the Holy Scriptures, there are verses that talks about eating in the dream, and they always lead to Satan.
Who is this guy?
I don't know, but the website is ibloggospel.com.
So here's my thing, and I like to understand things, and I try to be open-minded for the most part, but he's not telling me anything. He's just saying dreaming about eating is bad, but he hasn't said why. I mean, he says they lead to Satan, but how? Like, he's not really being concrete. I think he's just being an extreme.
She said he wasn't being concrete.
He was not being concrete. No, he was.
Yeah.
He was more.
Facts.
He was more in sanitation than sanatorium.
And sanitarian. Okay.
Yeah,
So look, folks, it's November 4th. Tomorrow's election day.
Go vote if you haven't voted already.
Yeah. Yeah. Gee, you know what? I'm gonna be the first one. I'm gonna be transparent, right? I look at both sides of the house. And if there was a button that said none of the above, I would go none of the above. Yeah. Some people may think I'm a little controversial by saying that, but realistically, man, there's a lot of things that pop into my gut.
no, I agree with you. I think sometimes voting is just voting for the lesser of two evils, right? I think it's very rare that we come across a situation where we look at a candidate and say, you know what, that candidate pushes all the good buttons for me. I don't see anything negative about them. I don't think that exists because just like us, they are also people. And all people have faults. They all have their good sides, they all have their bad sides. And because of that, there isn't one candidate that is going to be that go-to candidate that you think, oh, they know me. They're going to do everything that's good for me. That's going to be good for my family. It's going to be good for my friends. It's going to be good for the country. Because honestly, you can't do good for everybody. Because when you do good for one particular subset of people, you're probably hurting another subset of people in some way, right? People can say, oh, well, it's fine. Hurt the rich people because they have the money. But you know what? And I'm going to say this is controversial. I'm going to treat people like people. If you have more than me, at some point, either your forefathers or yourself worked really hard or got really lucky and got to where you are with your finances and everything, right? So you got where you're at. I didn't get where you're at, not yet. I may never get where you're at. But my hope is by the hard work I put in, that it makes my offspring do better and so on until they get to where they need to be. And that's just the American way. You work hard and you get to the point where you need to get, hopefully. So, I voted because I voted last week. I voted for who I thought was the least destructive for this nation.
That's what I was going to say. That was my perspective looking at, yes, do we have a perfect candidate? No. But which one is going to be the less hurtful to the unity of the country, how we need to be to move forward as one country? And I think that is one of the jobs of this role, right? You're the leader. You're the leader of this entire nation, and you should be uniting, even if there might be some perks that some people have over others because of some of the laws or rules that you put into place. That's fine, but nothing that you do should divide the country or make it worse than we were before. And so, yeah.
I agree. I mean, I kind of look at this situation. The people are about to elect a new president or the president, and that person elected should be doing everything in his power to take care of his people, right? And I'm going to be one of those people that may not understand and the bigger scope or the bigger picture of things of the world, right? Um, when I say the world, just those international events, those, let's just say like the Ukraine war with Russia. I'm not that smart guy either that knows about stocks and have people that, you know, are well connected or talented enough to tell you what to invest in and when to, when to buy, when to trade, right? But that person being elected could be concentrating and taking care of home. Home is our nation, right? And the same emphasis and you know, you push the card to go in front of Congress to get not thousands, not millions, but billions of dollars to send overseas for war. Can you take a moment and invest billions of dollars for those veterans that sacrificed their lives, for our homeless people, for those that are suffering from substance use disorder? Can you only imagine if you invested billions back into home? Can we be in a better place?
Yeah, absolutely. In this country, I mean, mental issues aside and drug use aside, there shouldn't be homeless people in this country. There shouldn't be. You should be able to build buildings, right? You have all these warehouses empty. You have all this land that's not used. You should be able to build homes for people that are out on the street. There shouldn't be homeless people.
And in that, just invest money into some programs that are going to build or have shelters in place.
Not only that, but how many kids go hungry every day in this country?
I think being president, and this is overly simplified, so I might get slapped for this, but you're the parent, right? And a parent with multiple children, in this case, millions of children, and not every child needs the same thing, but you need to be aware of what every child needs so that you can provide them with that environment, right? What they need, so they can thrive and kind of be aware of that, be realistic and aware of what is needed in your home to raise a healthy, thriving household.
Well, I think by this time tomorrow, polls close. It's 8:04, right? Polls close by 8 o'clock, I
8 or
think.
9.
8 or 9, yeah. So needless to say, by midnight we should know something, or at least who would be the front runner, right? Either way, I hope that whoever gets elected into their position, they do what they need to do to take care of the American people across the board throughout the entire nation, and concentrate in doing what's right, right, and leveling out the playing field. And again, I know there's international things that are occurring, and some of those things we're not privy to. Why is there's so much interest? I could believe there is specific interest for it, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. But at this day and age, as we're doing now, and a lot of our professions is explaining the why, and I think that's what we're not getting, the why.
Yeah.
The why to a lot of different things.
Yeah, it's too many whys, though. So I hear a lot of people arguing about Israel. Why are we standing with Israel, or this and that and the other thing? There's a lot of politics involved with everything, right? We need friends wherever we can get them. I've said to people that when we turn, it's, for example, in this room, we're friends, right? You guys have my back. I have your back if things happen. Now, that being said, since I know you have my back, maybe when we're out at a place, I can be a little bit more mouthy because I know you have my back, right? But let's say I'm mouthy too much all the time, and then you're like, you know what? Kev is he's off the hook. He's just getting me in trouble. And then there's the one time when you decide you're done, right? You're done with me because all I do is get us into fights, and then we both end up with black eyes, rotator cuff out of the socket, all kinds of things start happening.
We went there.
So what that's why I kind of say it's akin to that is we have to, be good to our friends. Don't put them in those situations where they're going to be tired of us. So when people say, why are we meddling in their affairs? It's not so much that we're meddling in their affairs. We're protecting our interest, protecting our friendship, because we know that they stand between us and somebody else, right? It's one of these things where we don't have to deal with those other people because our friend is dealing with them. And it's at the point where we decide I've had enough of my friend, that all of a sudden now we got a bigger problem. So that's kind of one of those things I say with foreign politics, where people want to know, why are we spending money here? Why are we spending money there? Why are we doing all this? There are whys. It's just that, like you said, we're not privy to them. And that's oversimplification of things. But I think there are a lot of things that happen in politics and in world economics that we don't understand and aren't made aware of, or even know what the consequences are if we decide to stop things, like with tariffs. All right, people say, "Oh, just put all these high tariffs on these goods, and then they won't be able to sell stuff." Yeah, but then what happens when they do the same thing to us?
Oh, there's a backlash.
There's always a backlash, right? So you have to think these things through. You can't just, and again, it's politics, where you can't just say the first thing in your brain. You got to think about things first. So I just want to say that I know it's too late because by the time this comes out, you're voting, or you probably heard it after the vote. But when you vote, think about these things. Don't listen to all the rhetoric out there. Don't listen to all the misinformation, because there's misinformation on both sides. But use your critical thinking. Think about what certain consequences can happen with certain actions, and make your decisions on that. Think with your heart. Think with your brain. And don't just think what don't just make a rash decision on something because somebody said a triggering word. And that's my say on them.
Yeah, facts. And I think at the end, just send Putin and Diddy together in a big party again and give them all the baby oil in the world, right?
I actually saw that invite on Instagram. So yeah.
Well, folks, listen. I hope you guys get the moment to enjoy this little episode that we just threw in there. We just kind of winged it, right? Just try to throw a couple different things. And more importantly, thank you to our guests, Carmencita, for hanging out with us for a little bit.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, I hope we could probably do this again, especially with some of the topics that Kevin and I sit and kind of brainstorm in, that we, at times really need the female perspective. And
Happy to give it.
Yeah. So listen, without a shadow of a doubt, people, please comment, reach out to us anytime at Sip and Say It podcasts at gmail.com. And Kev, what's our next one?
info@sipandsayit.com, and make sure to go to the website, sipandsayit.com, for any information about this show and upcoming events.
Yeah, folks. And listen, now that he brought up upcoming events, we just had the privilege the other day to go hang out at Wim's Brewery and had the chance to talk to ownership. And looks like we're going to try to do a little bit of a joint venture. Hopefully something to roll out soon for you guys to to see and come partake with us. So without a shadow of doubt, man, just like we always say it, let's have that real talk, one sip at a time. Thank you, folks.
Peace.
On behalf behalf of your host, Los, thank you for joining us this week on Sip and Say It. Without you, the village, and the participation on Sip and Say It, the universe will never know what's on your mind. Subscribe to Sip and Say It on media platforms like Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Pocket Cast, and our very own Facebook page at Sip and Say It. Email us with your thoughts about the episode or topics you'd like to hear to be discussed at sipandsayitpodcast@gmail.com. Tune in next for our next episode. We can sip and say it together.